White?
It's the Queen's Gambit. That's been the theme of Levon Aronian's games, especially when he's had black. The Queen's Gambit accepted. Black did temporarily win a pawn. White won that pawn back. And now we see a slightly rare move, this last bishop move coming out. I've played it myself. Black here does have a problem, and that tends to be with space. White's central pawns are very far advanced, and therefore White is often able to launch an attack. It's just about whether Wei Yi can control his extra space here with White. You need to catch up with piece development. You should bring one of White's knights out here, for example. But Black does have at least have a stronghold on the d5 square. Nice outpost for the Black Knight. Yeah, this opening tends to have a slightly better reputation for White, but early days. The White Knight now developing. And Black solidifies the centre. The big question in this type of opening, actually, which side does Black castle? Black often actually castles on the queen side, on the left side of the board, because I guess if you castle on the other flank with Black, you do invite an attack. Simon, you've talked about the White kind of pawn structure, especially the White e5 pawn. When that White e5 pawn exists, Black's king doesn't feel safe on the king side, right?
Yeah, it doesn't feel safe on the king side at all. I mean, but it's exciting for us. And there we see a knight being developed. And, well, we expect, as David mentioned, that White just continues the development and we get the big, well, race where both sides attack each other.
And I'm noticing something interesting. We were talking about Wei Yi drinking his tea earlier. Now, last season in the tour, Levon Aronian seemed to have success eating his seeds, and the seeds are back. He is snacking on something, and I suspect it is the seeds.
Yeah, I think I was in Armenia many, many moons ago, and I remember there was a very nice treat where you think it's roasted pumpkin seeds. Very, very good for the brain.
Yeah.
OK, secret to success there.
Yeah.
I did not know that. Maybe I should try some.
Brain seeds.
Yeah.
Brain seeds.
I do know that Magnus is very particular. Well, he maybe used to be very particular when it came to nutrition. You know, he wouldn't be eating sugar because sugar would give him too much of a rush, and then there would be the dip. And the same goes for caffeine as well. Too many dips, and you need your energy to be stable. And
You've got to plant the seeds for success.
Ooh, I like it. But David, you like to be hungry when you play. You said that before.
Yeah.
You don't like to snack on something.
Yeah, I don't mind a little bit, but I definitely can't have a full meal just before a chess game, because for the first hour or two, I'll just feel lethargic, a bit drowsy if I've just eaten.
But how about during the game, especially if it's a long classical game, if you feel a dip in energy, what will you eat?
Yeah, I like to bring a banana or chocolate bars maybe, but I'm not really, I mean, I'm too disorganized basically to go to the supermarket. So often I'm rushing for a game, I'm like, oh wait, I need a snack, and there's nothing available. So yeah, I think bananas, maybe a chocolate bar or two are good ideas. Or these seeds. Yeah. You need the seeds to succeed. Sorry, I'll stop now. But,
start selling that. Get a hold of whatever Levon is eating and just repack it into suck seeds.
Yeah, if he wins.
Sell it to chess players.
If he wins, we need to all do that.
Yeah, and, well, the game is continuing in the course that David predicted early on. Black is getting ready to castle the king to the left. And here we have it, a very sharp position. And, well, whilst Levon Aronian is munching on the seeds, well, we also love to see your selfies because it is the final and it's getting all dramatic. And Mark Keener says, play chess against this guy. And I'm pretty sure this is Marvin, the alien from, I want to say, the...
Is it Space Jam or...
Yeah.
Yeah, Looney Tunes?
That's the one.
Is it? Yeah?
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Yeah. And I can't remember whether Marvin is fierce or whether Marvin is depressed.
That's another film, isn't it? Like
I think that's Hitchhiker's Guide to the
Hitchhiker's Guide
to the Galaxy.
Marvin is the depressed robot there.
Yeah.
42. My age is the
meaning of life.
Meaning of life, that's right. Yeah, the depressed robot. So, yeah. That's
and also, Bassem says that they thought that their turtle would win the prize yesterday, but he didn't. So he's going to replace it with the two little turtles. And sends us some more greetings from Tunisia. Thank you very much, Bassem. And they're so cute, aren't they?
Absolutely.
I do like turtles. And, yeah. And that, well...
Keep them coming.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Keep them coming. And remember, you can take your selfies, or you can send us your thoughts, and even enter the Crypto Cup Challenge by tweeting us using the hashtag #ChessChamps. And when it comes to the Crypto Cup Challenge, don't be shy.
No.
Just test yourself and see what fun you can have.
Absolutely. And if you have questions as well for our experts in the studio, use Twitter and we can answer any questions you might have. And my question right now, David, is what's happening on the board? The king is on that side where we often see drama.
Yeah, definitely drama in this game ahead. We're not going to see any quiet kind of strategic battles here. We're definitely going to see one side attacking. It's yet to be seen which side that will be, where you will hope it's him, because Black's king, I mean, there are some defending pieces around it, but it's maybe easier to attack. You can throw pawns towards it, you can throw pieces forward later. It's slightly difficult to attack the white king. Black's only way to do that is to push Harry the H-pawn down the board at some point, but that does take several tempi, several moves. First Levon Aronian, he's just trying to jump in with the black knights, most likely to that outpost on the d5 square that we talked about earlier in front of white's central pawns. But, I mean, if we talk about the position itself, but also maybe the styles of the players, who looks more happy with their position, maybe who's done the better research. Levon, just like the last game, he looks like he's familiar with the plans. He knows where the pieces belong. He knows what he wants to play. Wei Yi spending quite a lot of time for what is, as far as I know, quite a standard position. He could have predicted this Wei Yi. Levon's been playing this opening, the Queen's Gambit accepted, pretty much the whole tournament. So why is he thinking at such an early stage in a well-known type of kind of setup?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, and this is a well-known position. I mean, I would have thought on the other side of that, this position suits Wei Yi, because you mentioned before the round has started, he wants something sharp, he wants to attack Aronian, he wants to go for his king. And when you have the kings on the opposite side of the board, that is one of the most interesting cases in chess. No pieces have been exchanged, and you can often just throw your pawns towards your opponent's king, and at some point, I think this game will come really to life. I think it's going to be a very exciting middle game. And the last move looks pretty logical to me. Bring the knight maybe into the centre next move and towards Black's king. And I'd probably take white in this position just because it's easier for white to play. And again, that's a real thing you have to think about when you're picking your openings. Is the position easy to play? Not always is it a good position, but is it easy to play? Obviously, having a good position kind of helps as well, you know.
Talking of ease of play here, Simon, what would the plans be? Maybe if white's position is slightly easier to play, what would be the easy plans, the simple plans? You mentioned bringing a knight in, maybe? Yeah,
I mean, a knight to the centre, then trying to bring it to a square that's very typical in a Sicilian, this square here, which you're demonstrating, which attacks the queen. That would be a lovely square for the knight, and I think, you know, if it can ever land there, Black would have to capture it. Other ideas, we've talked about what we call a pawn storm, and a pawn storm is, you don't really do this when your king's on the same side because it's very risky, but here, white can start at some point using his pawns, and he can start pushing them up, like the pawn on the wing, all the way up to try and open up Black's king. You know, you're using that little warrior. He's like a little assassin, and he's going all the way up the board, and he's going to try to, you know, find a way through the opponent's defences, his king. So, and both of those ideas. Jovanka, we may have seen this before, right?
I have actually never seen this before, but I can tell you, one of us in the panel has actually played a game in it.
I know who that is.
And it's Sabino Brunello and David Howell. 2017, the game ended in a draw. So my question to you, David, is how comfortable did you feel in this position with the black pieces?
Very good question. I did not feel comfortable at all. That was the first time ever, that game, that I'd played this setup for black in a tournament game. And I'd done a lot of studying beforehand. I prepared for 2-3 hours. I hadn't predicted this exact variation from white, but I'd looked at the ideas, and suddenly we got to the board, and I was just sitting there thinking, oh, my position is so much uglier over the board than it looks on a computer screen when the computer says, oh, it's roughly level. And I did draw that game. I got a decent position, but Yeah,
Did you ever play it again?
Not in classical chess, I think.
Classical, right? So that's good. So you must not like the kind of positions, and you often find that, don't you? Even when you prepare, you kind of it's very easy just to look at the computer and not to look at the position, because you're following so much what the computer says. But you actually have to do I like this position? And we've mentioned some of the plans that White's got, and it just seems like it's a bit easier for White to play. But Aronian has picked this line, so he must have some confidence in it from the black side as well. Black
is still relatively solid. These pawns, he hasn't touched them. So if you touch one of the pawns, Simon, you mentioned the word hook a couple of days ago, and then there's a hook, something that White can grab on and kind of wrench apart the black structure, but these pawns haven't committed. That's good defensively. There are 2 knights around the black king, so even in that game when I didn't like my position, when things went slightly wrong, I did have knights around to jump into outposts and to hold everything together. Meanwhile, White just pushes a pawn to defend his knight. Just a rock-solid square.
Are we still in Howell's game?
Don't think this last move was, at least. And Black, meanwhile, does have plans. For example, Black can push this pawn, start chipping away at White's kind of the spearhead of White's pawn structure. Black can also just soften up the Black king. And you mentioned the little warrior for White. This could be a little warrior for Black. If it ever lands anywhere near the White king, then long-term, White's king does feel a bit unsafe. So, yeah, a bit of manoeuvring ahead, I expect, but either way, both sides are going to attack. In that game, at some point, White did try to jump in with a knight. It might be quite similar, and then we'll see that exchange that Simon mentioned.
Yeah.
So are we in for another entertaining fighting game?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic.
I mean, this is not going to be your boring draw where everything is symmetrical. No. Here, there is a real fight on the board. And one thing that I find, again, quite curious is how little time Levon has used on his clock.
Yeah. Again.
Yeah. And I have to say, I would say to all our viewers, be cautious about playing your moves so quickly. Yes, it's a sign of confidence, but do remember that there is like years and years of study behind these moves that Aronian is making. And if you're just learning the game, then be a little bit more careful and just scout the whole board before you play instantly. And the reason I'm saying this is because often as children, we play incredibly quickly. Yeah. And, everyone is playing a 2-hour game. And as children, we're in it for 5 minutes and then we're out.
I think when we're young, we don't realise how much scope there is. We think that we know the best way. We believe in our innate ability. We think, OK, I'm just going to go straight for the king. Done. But at higher levels, there's always so much more detail. There's always finesse. There's always little kind of things here and there that we want to consider, that we should spend time considering. And unfortunately, not all of us have time, like these professional players, all of the viewers at home, they won't have time to study as much as some of these guys have done.
Of course.
Levon, I'm sure he's studied this type of position at least for dozens and dozens, or maybe even hundreds of hours in his life.
Wow.
So that's why he can play so quickly. He's familiar with the ideas, the patterns. It's just adapting those patterns and into the position, into the exact move orders.
Yep. And I think the plans you pointed out, David, look very sensible here. If I was Black here, I'd certainly want to start doing something against my opponent's king, even if it's a very long plan, trying to push one of those pawns. And I reckon in like 5 to 10 moves, it's just going to come to light, this position, because, both sides are going to get near their opponent's king, and we're going to see loads of tactics. So I'm excited about this one. And this is the first time Lev has really slowed down now. So it's maybe a sign that he's got to work out what his plan is in the middle game. And it just seems a little bit trickier for Black to play, but it's certainly not a bad position for Black either at the moment. You've got to think they're playing the Olympiad soon, and I wouldn't have thought they want to show all their preparation, because the Olympiad, is a really, really big event, and obviously we're going to have Mr. Ashley on, aren't we, soon?
Yeah.
So, and America are the top seeds, which Lev is now playing for. So it's going to be very exciting to see how he's done, because he's won gold medal for Armenia before. So
3 times. I mean, that's
three
amazing.
times
That
is
many?
incredible. Yeah.
Wow.
Armenia is such a small country, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, and they've won 3 times. I think Russia didn't win at all in the meantime.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just going to have to interrupt you both, because what do you think about this move, which came, I'll be honest with you, as a complete shock? I mean, I was thinking that Black should perhaps play in a really aggressive fashion, very directly. This one is very subtle.
Yeah. Trying to work out the idea behind it. Black Queen just retreating out of the way of her rook, I guess. We do talk as well about Queen standing opposite enemy rooks, and White's rook was on the d-file. Maybe the Black Queen felt a bit uncomfortable there. But that Black Queen, she will need to move again later to get out.
Yeah, I mean,
get active.
It's getting out the way of that knight jump, isn't it? When the rook could open up, but it's a really passive square for the Black Queen. I mean, it's just purely a defensive square there. It can't be used at all. And that gives... I mean, if I saw that move, I'd be feeling really confident, because I'd be like, oh, great, my opponent has played a negative move, as in a defensive move. That's good. That means I don't even have to rush this position, but I've got him on the retreat a little bit. There's a couple of tempting options. I think Wei Yi's last move was to give himself space for the bishop, and he can start doing stuff on the queen side with that pawn we've mentioned as well. I guess, David, you know, I mean, we saw yesterday one of the big mistakes that happened was Duda doing this pawn move a bit prematurely, before he had got his bishops to the best squares. So I would probably just...
To retreat.
I'd probably just move that bishop back 1 square if I was White here.
Back it away.
Maybe my queen has a bit more length, but it gets out of the way of any knight jumps, and it's a safer square. Just a nice, you know, my opponent's played a nothing move, so maybe I play a nothing move, but a better nothing move. Yeah. That's the way I'll be looking at the position here.
Yeah, you improve a loose piece, makes sense. The bishop steps back, and then only then will you decide whether to push these pawns forward or whether to jump in with the knight. Maybe, like you said, maybe jump out with the queen at some point, somewhere. Yeah, it's a bit odd. I mean, if you showed me this move, this queen retreat, the Black Queen looks pretty nice right now, but if you showed me this move and you didn't tell me who was playing, I would say, oh, it's maybe a slightly lower rated player who's inexperienced, who doesn't realise that the queen is pretty safe for now. Because also, I mean, how is this queen ever going to get out? She's going to have to use this square again just to kind of enter the action, to enter the game. So, yeah, strange one from Levon Aronian. Talking about the bar as well, White has a +1 advantage, but that's because computers really love this type of pawn structure. Sometimes they overestimate White's chances when White has this kind of extra space. If you compare it to Black's pawn structure is nice and compact, like these pawns not committed, these pawns not committed, but therefore Black struggles with space. I think Black's dream as well is to swap off maybe a set of minor pieces. OK, he jumps in White now. If Black can trade off a set of minor pieces, he doesn't get cramped, he doesn't struggle for space. But
really surprised about that move, because you know, your opponent, that's what your opponent's prepared for.
Yeah.
That's the only move that makes Black's queen retreat look sensible. Any other move at all, and it doesn't make Black, you know, it doesn't make the last move. He's making that weird move look sensible by putting the knight there. So why do that? I mean, it can't be a bad move, but this is always there, and you don't need to rush such a move. Maybe it's a really strong move, but it just seems a little bit funny to me, a little bit. I mean,
how would you react to this kind of funny-looking move, then, Simon?
I'd want to take that knight off. I mean, because it's so strong, if I can. So let's see, and then I guess, can I just capture the rook first?
Yep, you can trade a set of
and let's say I put another rook. Again, I'm making that queen move look sensible now. And when you move your queen, I just take the central square with a knight, or one of the squares with my knight, for example. And you know, here, you know, I've got nice control over the centre, and I think I'm feeling pretty happy here, generally. But that knight is worth the bishop.
Well, so he's going for your plan, Simon, and I completely agree with you.
Yeah, this knight looks beautiful. All Black needs is to somehow activate the queen, and all of Black's pieces are doing some pretty good work. OK, computer, again, not a fan of what Levon's doing, but from a human point of view, this looks really sensible. We could see a situation where White just eliminates this knight, tries to swap off rooks and tries to bail out for a draw, but that would just be opposite colour bishops. Here, White does have the bishop pair, but they're not great because the centre is mostly blocked. We talked about crisscrossing bishops earlier, but these bishops, they're just staring at kind of granite, staring at rocks. I was looking at the square, you know, the crisscross.
Trying to get it working, yeah.
Trying to get something working, and the action is actually on this central square where the knight sits.
Yeah.
But black has that one locked down.
The investigations continue.
Yeah.
We need to write like a doctor's
Thesis.
yeah, on this subject.
On this pattern, yeah.
The
If
crisscross,
anyone wants to fund our research into this phenomenon.
which might take place down the Goodnight pub
Yes, it
after
will.
the show. So do feel free to send us some cash for the research. Research. So, yes, indeed.
Yeah.
We would enjoy that. So,
Yeah, we would. And OK, the knight is in the middle of the board. I mean, this is the big question: to take the knight or to play with the bishops. After all, 2 bishops are better than 1.
yeah, maybe if you take the knight, Ivanka, then I'd move the rook, do
Yeah.
I? And I maybe prefer black's position there because I don't know, possibly. I think.
Yeah, it might depend on specifics. So, for example, if we do jump in, you guys are saying, yeah, bishop takes knight is maybe the most logical move. Makes sense. Black's rook swings across to create this pin, and the bishop can't move. Can white try and launch an attack against the black king by, for example, pushing a pawn forward after the rook takes the bishop, now jumping out, threatening checkmate on this square?
A little bit scary.
Blocks. Yeah.
A little bit scary, isn't it?
Black can block, but now the black queen is kind of tied down where she is just to stop the white queen sneaking in, giving checkmate. Now white could, for example, bring the rook across. But yeah, maybe black is just in time to swap off these rooks. Yeah, it feels like black is really solid somehow. There's only one checkmating idea for white, and it can be prevented. There's too much else going on in the position.
Way down to 4 minutes on the clock.
Yeah.
Is it him playing slow or Levon just playing very fast?
It's a bit of both. At move 20 in general in rapid chess, you don't want to have used much more than half your time. I mean, we've seen plenty of games go beyond move 50, 60, even sometimes 100. So to have only 4 minutes left now is not ideal. That being said, I'm always in this situation myself, so I understand. Especially when Wei Yi, he was caught maybe with a small surprise in the opening. So it took him 5 or so minutes just to adapt, just to get used to the opening. Now is when the big decisions are made. Now is when the game is decided, you know, on the strategic. Do you play bishop takes knight? Do you keep your bishop pair? Do you go on the attack? All those big questions. So I'm not surprised he's investing the time now. It's just Aronian
He has to
making him look slow.
But he does have to save some time because, yeah, this is one critical moment, but there's more to come.
Definitely.
And we're still in the middle game, and 3 minutes now for Wei Yi. And I can just look at Levon. He's looking confident. He's
Backing
looking
Wei.
like he's got everything under control. He's not in any danger whatsoever. And those seeds are packing a punch.
Yeah, I was going to say also, if that bishop now moves, which is attacked, then it just seems like it validates the reason that knight jump was too premature, because he could have this same position by waiting with that. Had he moved that bishop and moved before, you know, he could be saving a whole tempo, because there wasn't really much. Black was very cramped, and the other thing to bear in mind, exchanges help the player decide who's got the more cramped position. And, you know, 4 or 5 moves ago, black had much less space than white because of white's pawns in the centre. And he has moved that bishop again. Obviously not a bad move, but he could have this position with white to move. So just exchanges have helped black. And, I mean, I still think white's, by the way, absolutely fine. If not, I'd still prefer to be white. But, you know, that's what you get when you play this opening.
Could have been even better, maybe. And
yeah, just all the little bits add up, don't they? When you're playing someone as class as Lev.
yeah, I mean, that's the one tiny criticism I would make about Wei Yi and some of the other younger players. They do rush slightly in these kind of slower positions, and maybe Levon, he's sensed that. Hence, that black queen move that we said was mysterious. He sensed that Wei Yi was going to do something kind of, something just a bit too hasty, and he was like, OK, if he's going to jump in, I'm going to get ready for that. But he's not going to wait and manoeuvre like we were saying. He's not going to slowly improve his pieces because it's the young way. It's kind of, I think we've all been there when we were young, right? We don't want to sit and wait. We want to go.
Some of us never grow up either, David. It's like, I'm still there, unfortunately. I mean, you know, I need to...
It's a fun way to play chess.
I can't wait till your course comes out. Then I can learn to grind that's my grinding move. Let's not do it. Grind like a grandmaster. Exactly. Yeah, and this course you've done with Magnus is going to be fantastic, right? I mean, Magnus hasn't done many courses, so very much looking forward to getting the gruesome twosome.
Yeah, the world's best chess player and the world's best chess expert teaming up for a chessable course.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, this game could still be a grind, a long grind, but especially while the queens and rooks remain on the board. But even if they came off, White does have the bishop pair. Some small long-term hopes there. I just think that Black's bishop and Black's knight are too strong right now. They should be able to hold the balance. I wouldn't be surprised if the Black queen started coming out. I like what Wei Yi's done as well. That white dart-squared bishop on the diagonal has stopped Black's rook from swinging to the d-file.
Well, he's moved that knight away from that very strong square, David. And, I mean, Jovanka, would you have thought... I wouldn't have thought about that move, but...
No, but then again, I thought Wei Yi was being very smart. I mean, I didn't quite appreciate the point of his bishop move out there until I was like, well, you know, Black should just cement the knight. But if you make any weaknesses on the dark squares, well, there's going to be a trade, and then the bishop can cement itself on d6 square, and that is going to be very unpleasant. So I think Levon made a very interesting choice. I don't think, I'll be honest, I would make that same move. I think I would perhaps have stepped forward with the queen to overprotect the knight.
You know what he wants, guys? He wants an octopus on the board. He wants an octopus knight on the d3 square.
I've just remembered the name for that was coined by Jan Gustafsson in Norway chess. The Kraken.
Kraken?
The Kraken. A knight that sits there on the d3 square would be called a Kraken. Okay. That's like an octopus, the most scary type, right? Or
Sailors and pirates were terrified of
the Kraken.
Kraken. Yes.
And in this position, Black's knight, we talk about the Kraken, the octopus. This knight could install itself on the d3 square, but Wei Yi has done a great job with the white queen. The white queen, notice how it covers all three pawns that this knight is attacking. So this Black knight now is actually much worse than it looks. It looks like a fantastic piece supported by Black's bishop, but now the white rook can simply swing across, and look at the knight, it's actually trapped behind enemy lines. It's actually going to drop off.
I'm really not sure about Aronian's plan, I have to say. I thought you could have moved the bishop and pushed his g-pawn and then got the rook in the centre, like, you know, for example. Just keep that knight there, you know, and get the rook in the middle. You know, why not play something like this? I think that knight is just so nice. I mean, OK, it's come back now, but is the knight really better on this square than it was in the middle of the board? I'm not convinced at the moment. No. I mean, I don't see how this has helped Lev's position, really, this manoeuvre, personally. OK, you're attacking the queen, you're attacking the pawn, but they're very easy to defend. And also now there's an open file, which White has the chance to control because of that bishop. And it wasn't an open file before the knight was blocking it. So I'm liking Wei Yi's position now.
It feels like the calm before the storm, though. These little bit small moves and the clocks are ticking. Wei Yi, I mean, he's under 2 minutes on the clock.
Yeah.
It's like this will explode.
It definitely will explode. And I suspect that Levon has to do a bit of repair work. I mean, there's going to be critical played along that open line, and he has to act now.
Yeah. I just don't see how to get the Black rook in the game. That's the problem. Black's rook, the d8 square is controlled by White's dark square bishop.
Surely you have to move the bishop so you can move the pawn. That's the only thing I was thinking Black can do. Because you need to get that rook in, don't you? I mean, what else can you do here? What moves can Black play? This is always the problem. I can't see what moves Black can do here.
Almost nothing.
You know, it's. I'd want to move that knight back and put it in the middle if I was Black here, actually.
So I'll just suggest something strange from a beginner. If that dark squared bishop, the white one, is the problem for Levon, how about blocking with the pawn?
That's what we want.
OK.
This bishop. So we can't block with this pawn yet, because this square is actually protected twice, so we would lose a pawn. After pawn takes pawn, a capture and a recapture, White would emerge with an extra pawn at the end. But yeah, that's the right idea, Kaya. And wow, he moves his bishop to this square. This is really odd. But the idea is to block out this key bishop from covering the d8 square. He wants to next move, no matter what White does. For example, if White swings the rook to the open file, he wants to push this pawn forward. So still blocking the bishop, kicking it away.
So basically, Kaya, you nailed it.
Yeah.
You nailed it.
Basically.
You nailed the move. Yeah, you did. Yeah, no, you did. You got the right idea. And
I would have just moved that pawn right away.
We have fireworks, right, happening on the board.
Yes.
Yeah,
Because
so one attack was met by a counter-attack, hitting White's bishop, and White doesn't want to part with the bishop pair. White's king sits on this flank as well. So what do you think? Has this weakened White's king, pushing this pawn forward? Now we see a trade of rooks.
And now the rook comes in.
Yeah, this is big. This makes... this is really good. No, he's got... And Black's certainly improved his position with the last couple of moves, I feel. So.
Yeah. Now, the rooks, if they come off... I mean, if they come off on Black's terms, then Black is the only one who occupies this open file. The queen can't jump in anywhere yet, but maybe it could offer itself up for a trade at some point, and at least you control this d-file with the queen. I guess Wei Yi's idea in the current position, is it to soften up the black pawns on this flank? That's the only justification I think why White would push this pawn and open up the White king.
Yeah. I suppose it's worth thinking, you know, what do both sides want to exchange? And originally I was thinking, maybe Lev wants to get rid of the heavy pieces. The heavy pieces are the rooks and queens. But then I was thinking, actually, it's probably Wei Yi because of some of the moves that you demonstrated there, David, those pawn pushes. I'm not convinced, but, you know, there could be mass exchanges on the open file. Who do we think that benefits? I mean, Ivanka, if the queens and rooks come off, would you think that helps White or Black?
You know, I was puzzling about this issue, and I
Just for
couldn't
example.
come up with a solution, actually. I mean, I was thinking, well, White could actually be doing very well, but then again, Black, he could have some long-term potential. So I was really, really undecided. I would have needed to just look at this position and investigate it for a lot more than a few minutes.
I think this would definitely favour White. I mean, you're going to create some weaknesses. If this black pawn was kind of further back, then I think maybe Black would be OK, but I do feel that there'll be some weaknesses on this side of the board.
Bar is now jumping up for Levon Aronian.
Yeah, it's jumping up. This last bishop... So the rooks came off the board, and this last bishop retreat, slightly mysterious. At the very least, Black can kind of go to the corner, attack this pawn, and force the white bishop back where it came from, and Black could repeat the position. So I think right now, Black has that safety net. If he wants, he can attack this pawn and force White's bishop back where it came from, go for the draw. But
I guess he's also thinking about the ending, David, here, isn't he? Because he can now go for that ending.
And swap the queens.
If he so wishes. But I'm agreeing with you, unless Black can get something very quick from that, the queen exchange should help White. It's not even a case of the two bishops, is it, really? It's the case that Black's pawns are weaker than White's pawns when the queens get exchanged.
And one thing I would love to do as Black, just push a pawn, give the Black king some breathing space while the queens remain on the board, just in case.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, David. I'm also, if I were playing with the black pieces, I would be looking at ways to mobilise the black knight. It kind of irritates me that it's just on that square.
You could make an argument for coming in here.
That's what I want.
Retreating and then kind of sliding into the centre.
Yep.
Yeah, the problem is if you move the knight, then White could offer to swap the queens. Again, we have to make that decision. Do you swap the queens? Do you trade them off? And maybe Levon Aronian doesn't want to trade the queens in the current position because he's got 6 minutes against 40 seconds. So you want to keep the queens on the board if you want to keep winning chances.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe there would be annoying moves later. Maybe you can offer, you know...
I didn't realise Wei Yi's under a minute. I mean, I sort of, he's got 40 seconds, so...
So what do you think right now? Looking at the clock, looking at the board, will we have a winner in this game too?
I don't know. It's in the balance. If anyone, I would say Aronian, just because of the momentum of the game. It's all been going Black's way ever since Wei Yi kind of rushed and got impatient and kind of made that knight c5 move earlier that Simon was discussing. So it feels like Aronian's asserted his authority slightly on this game. He's been outplaying Wei Yi in kind of small little details, but still a long, long way to go. White's position is still super solid, defending all the pawns.
I've just seen what the computer recommends.
I saw it too.
The computer's on drugs. I mean, it recommends, just checking, because to me, I like David's move, give the king an escape square, just like play some move. But he wants to go b5, of course, David. I mean, no, OK, anyone, I bet that Aronian doesn't play that move in 100 years or even in this game. Anyone want to bet that he plays b5?
E5.
He'll never, ever play that.
Never, no.
So that's pushing the pawn in front of the black king 2 squares. I mean,
Show that.
He'll never play it.
He's not even looking at that move.
No way.
Oh, he can't be.
This pawn.
This is apparently what the computer says is a good
Best
but
move, yeah.
It looks ridiculous to me.
I mean, if firstly you allow en passant, and we discussed it's very unnatural as a human to even allow that. He doesn't play
Well,
it.
for a second, I thought it might appear on the board.
That was never going to happen. But
No.
I guess the idea is that you bypass white's pawn if he doesn't take. If he takes, OK, great. Black's structure is still pretty solid. But if he doesn't take, then black's knight is on a nice outpost. It can no longer ever be challenged by a pawn. But instead, the knight jumped in, and I really don't like this decision from Levon Aronian if he wants to win this game. Now he plays the idea, but but the queens are off. That is the big difference. And OK, now he pushes his pawn. He's got an idea of creeping in with his king, but same idea with the queens on would have been stronger. And with Wei Yi under 40 seconds, he's so happy the queens have come off. With the queens on, all 3 results possible. Still all 3 results possible, but white has a margin for error. Queens off. OK, a trade of pawns.
And
Son?
do you think that Wei Yi will perhaps instinctively try to soften up the... No, he doesn't. He retreats the bishop.
Yeah.
And this is a nice overprotecting move. I like it. I mean, maybe not the most direct, but I think it's very good.
What do you think, guys, if the black knight ever jumps in, or maybe not to this square, but for example, in a square like this, will we ever see a trade going into opposite colour bishops? Is Wei Yi playing for the draw?
I'd be surprised. I mean, just from the evidence of Wei Yi's previous games, even when he's short time, he doesn't really like that draw, does he? He'll play on and on, but it may be a wise decision. I mean, I mean, if the knight comes to the centre, that's even maybe a little bit tricky, that ending.
Yeah.
Slightly tricky, yeah.
So, OK, instead the black knight jumps into the d3 square. We saw this reward Levon Aronian yesterday against Duda, and he's maybe hinting at taking it off.
Maybe you're right. Maybe he will, just because that would be just a draw immediately. If he gets the opposite card of bishops in an ending, as I'm sure most of you are aware, opposite card of bishops is often a draw. We're talking about Bobby Fischer, and it was Spassky who said, I think when he divorced his wife, he was like, we were just like opposite coloured bishops moving on different coloured squares.
Spassky said that, yeah.
Spassky, passing each other, not connecting. So, yeah.
I bet many marriages can relate to that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But, OK, the knight has been driven backwards. It's gone to the f4 square. And this does allow the white king to take a step forward. And he's chasing that knight.
Is this the way he playing ambitious? Is he trying to find a win in this game? Even with 42 seconds on his clock?
I have a feeling that he's just trying to gain time on his clock. He's only got 42 seconds. And before you initiate active operations, it's always good to build some extra time.
I guess he can draw here, right? He can go bishop takes knight, and we get mass exchanges. He'll probably win a pawn. On
he's done that.
So this is a drawing move, definitely. As in, you're going to win a kingside pawn as white here, I think. And this is
one of your pawns drops on the queen side. At least black can win a pawn right now. The white a2 pawn is hanging. There we go. So yeah, as you mentioned, Simon, white will win a pawn on the opposite flank most likely. And it should be a draw now.
But is it so easy, actually, if you push this f-pawn? Because after all, the h6 pawn is going to drop, and then you have a nice passed pawn to advance.
That pawn's easy to deal with for black, unfortunately.
OK.
Black's bishop will just slide down to the b1 square, guard the diagonal. But, yeah, at least we'll see this game continue for a while. It's not the most dead of opposite colour bishop endgames. Usually they're completely balanced, don't even have to discuss it. But here we will see some pawn imbalances, some pawn races potentially.
OK. Very tense, this final so far. This is game 2 in the first match. The first one ended with a draw. Levon had the white pieces in that one. Some fighting, but it was a draw. And in this one as well, we're seeing some fighting, but it feels tense. It feels like they're not daring to put all out there because it's just so critical to lose a game.
It kind of feels like two big cats kind of like circling each other, just maybe prodding here, trying to see a weakness. And, well, Levon pushes his c-pawn forward, And now we're going to see the h-pawn become passed.
Yeah. Black's king, meanwhile, ready to enter the position. White's king doing the same. You've got to use those kings in the endgame. And yeah, looks like a decent plan for black. Centralizing the black king. White's king doing the same, of course. Black does have a 2 versus 1 on the other side, so white can't fully ignore that and push his h-pawn forward. The central pawn for white under fire right now. Yeah, unfortunately, I think neither side has too many chances here. OK, white's going for it. Valuation bar slightly up for white. OK, just recorrecting itself.
Yeah, I mean, still some play left, I guess. I mean, like Jovanka mentioned that pass pawn. White at the moment does have a pass pawn, and black doesn't have a pass pawn. So I'd be shaking hands here, though.
But I think he has an idea, and it's a bit long. And of course, black is also playing. But you know, somehow the miracle would be is if the dark square bishop could stop black's pass pawns, and then.
For example, something like this.
Yeah, that would be good. That would be very helpful. And then somehow or other, the white king managed to.
So you need kind of all the stars to align. Say black does nothing, the white king steps in. And finally, the white king steps in, wins this pawn, or helps this pawn run forward, and supports it going to the h7 square.
You basically need Aronian to play like 5 terrible moves to get a slight chance. I don't see that happening. And probably the same goes the other way around, right? I mean, Aronian can get a pass pawn, but he's going to need Wei Yi to play some terrible moves in order to make that of any use whatsoever.
Yeah.
So
he's trying a similar plan. Maybe he's provoked this pawn to march forward. Now he's going back, so he's hoping that Levon plays this move that we highlighted. Just allowing the white bishop kind of to come round and sit on a nice square, blockading the black pawns. Yeah, it's interesting. It definitely feels like Wei Yi now that all the risk is out of the position that he's going to try and probe and hope for some kind of inaccuracies from Levon. All white needs actually is to put the bishop on this square, and then he can start going in with his king.
Yeah.
OK.
Bit of play.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we've written enough too soon. Maybe Aronian is the one defending.
You'd be playing this on, wouldn't you, David?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rule 101 of grinding, never agree a draw. Fight till king versus king if you need to.
Have you always been like that? I mean, because I know personally, like when I was a lot younger, I was kind of prone to taking draws. Then I realised that, you know, taking draws is just bad for your chess. You don't learn anything, and you should always basically avoid taking a draw. But when I was younger, I was very happy to take a draw and, you know, just get it over with in occasions if I was a bit scared, a bit nervous. But have you been always a fighter, always avoiding draws?
Yeah, at least until the last few years. I mean, recently in the last few years, I took a few more draws, or at least guided games towards draws, just because I was feeling tired or something in life was affecting me and I just wanted to save my energy, maybe. But when I was younger, I didn't care about saving energy. I just wanted to fight, I wanted to win, and I wanted to learn. And
it's a great strategy. And Jovanka, I was also going to ask you the same question. I mean, have you always avoided draws, or?
No, I was like you, Simon. I took draws when I was feeling slightly nervous or playing someone with a higher rating. And, well. Look which pawn advanced forward.
So
slightly strange decision.
It is a bit strange. And now the h-pawn takes 2 squares forward.
Yeah, so black's pawns are easily blockaded, at least. Aronian just wants to do all the work with his king. He's kind of initiating a race in a way. So black's king wants to come down towards that white b-pawn. Takes a long, long time. And meanwhile, white's h-pawn looks very strong.
It's a little, I mean, if I was black, I'd start to be like, oh, hang on a minute, this is not as easy as I thought. And I'd be starting to get a bit worried, basically, here. So,
yeah. Just the fact that white's plan is so straightforward.
Yep.
Oh.
Certainly.
Push the h-pawn now, maybe?
I mean, this looked like a good way to... I mean, the black king is coming very close to the white's remaining pawn on that side of the board. So, so I think it's still absolutely fine.
Ooh, 10 seconds for Wei Yi, though.
It is
should be.
Big threat, though. White's h-pawn is 2 squares away. Black's king needs to move away so that his bishop guards the diagonal.
Look at Levon.
He's panicking.
Yeah.
Big decision. Where does he put the king? He has a choice of 4 squares right now. One of them clearly loses. You can't put the black king on c2 because you continue blocking your bishop. You need to jump out the way.
Do you think he might be actually gambling on getting his own queen?
Pushing a pawn?
You're pushing the pawn.
Maybe, but that would be super risky. Surely.
I like the
And I
gamble.
like the way you said jump out the way.
Jump out the way, yeah.
So I
Definitely meant that.
It's got a very chess name because we say way.
Yeehaw.
Yeah.
Out the way.
All right, well, look at Levon. He is not looking comfortable. The bar is really liking this for Wei Yi. Game 2. Can the Chinese player get a win here?
God, it's really gone up there.
Actually, I was going to say the bar has shot up all the way over to the white side, and we will write this endgame off as a trivial draw.
Yeah.
I mean, the white king, can't it come in? Does it come in now? Well, no, not quite
It
yet.
zigzag its way in, and on the dark squares, that white king, we highlighted this plan. This is white's main winning plan, and black has done nothing to stop it.
Yeah.
I do have a feeling that Levon's easiest draw all that time ago was to just not bring his king into the centre. Black's king should have gone the whole way across the board to the h-file just earlier. Just even if you lose your queen side, lose one of the pawns, it was a dead draw there. Blockade the light squares. Now the black king's just waiting, and look at Wei Yi. He's about to repeat the position once just to...
He loves this
Oh, he
strategy.
did that yesterday as well.
Oh, he
There we
does.
go.
Yeah.
Stacking up time.
Second time we've seen this position.
And now the white king can move forward.
Yeah. Go in.
I mean, but is this winning? This is like such a
calculation is
complicated position. All
Does
of
he
a
have
sudden.
time to calculate a win, Wei Yi?
No, he does have time. Well, 28 seconds is not that much. So he's doing the right thing where he's just building up time on the clock. And when he's got enough, he will make that commitment.
Yeah, but it feels like now you have to stop the black king continuing going towards the white pawns. The white king only has 1 square to enter the black position, so just use that square now. Levon shaking his head.
Yeah, I mean, this...
Just back. He's just trying not to commit Wei Yi.
Yeah. Strange.
Don't know what he's doing. He could have gone for it with still 0 risk involved. OK, go back with the white king now. It's the only way.
Another thing I noticed, he doesn't like committing Wei Yi, does he? You know, he always tries to do every single thing else before he makes a decision, you know, when it comes to these type of things. And he loves going around in circles, really.
That's the way of the grinder.
The way of the grinder, I like it. Yeah.
Doing a good job of grinding.
Yeah, he's
I'm getting in there.
getting into the grind mode.
Exactly.
Commitment issues maybe as
Yeah,
well.
definitely.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily a bad thing as well. Often, just by going round in circles like this, where he might provoke a mistake from Levon. Levon might get impatient, be like, "Come on, let's start this race, this pawn race. Let's do something at least." OK, the black king, we're going back, just stopping any potential incursions from the white king. Computer hates it, of course, but white's king now is likely to step up 1 square. Feels like he's.
Now, you guys?
Sorry.
Will we have a winner in this game? What do you think now?
I have a feeling if the position is objectively winning, we're not 100% sure. A lot of calculation is needed. Once white's king starts going into the position, he'll drop some pawns and a race will start. But if the position is objectively winning, I think Wei Yi will win because he will go for it eventually. He won't just repeat the position and go for a draw. He has to go in with the white king.
Yeah.
Now, go in.
Yeah, you have to play
Now's
this
the
move
time.
at some point, don't you?
Yeah, I was a bit surprised by Lev waiting with his king. I thought he would wait with his bishop. OK, no.
Still delaying.
He's still not committing the king. Move it forward.
Yeah, I'm wondering, due to the black king location, did he miss this small window of opportunity earlier? Or, I mean, why is he not going in with the white king now? I just don't understand.
I mean, this is going to be a draw soon. This brings back flashbacks of Anisha's game, you know, when they had the 50 move rule, and it went all the way to 50 moves. I mean, he had to push that pawn, didn't he? And
That's the extremes of commitment issues, where Anish didn't want to commit, he didn't want to gamble, he was happy to kind of leave the tournament rather than gamble.
this must be 3 times now. I mean,
OK, the king.
Now, finally, the king's
It
coming.
steps up the board. And, OK, Levon follows suit.
but I was thinking yeah, okay. I mean,
Yeah.
this position kind of is key, right?
Yeah, but it will be a race, whatever happens. And White could have had that exact position with himself to move about 15, 20 moves ago. So what is the key now? Can you advance with the White king forward? You do give up the White G-pawn, but of course he's not going to commit yet. He's going to wait around.
Yeah.
And
Enjoying himself too much here.
yeah.
I guess the idea is the White king at some point has to zigzag 2 squares in and then push the H-pawn, right?
Yeah.
This is the way to do it.
The only way to win.
And Black will then have to give his bishop up for that pawn. And can Black then draw that position?
Yeah, let's maybe jump in, because Wei Yi, he's got to go for this if he wants to win. His only winning plan is to jump in, as Simon mentions. The Black king will take a pawn. He jumps in again. I'm not really sure where the Black king goes. But then you win Black's bishop. And the question is, for example, after, I guess, this pawn pushes, what else for Black? The question is, here, are you winning as White? Can you stop these 2 pawns? And can you keep your own pawn alive? Wei Yi thinks this is a draw, and maybe it is, because
Yeah.
White's king is so poorly placed. White's king is just...
I'd be a little bit scared playing that position as White as well. I mean,
That's why he's not going for it. He's scared of this
yeah,
position.
I mean, you could lose that ending
Yeah.
in some extreme cases, because those pawns are really quick. So I can understand why he hasn't gone for this, and that would indicate it's probably a draw, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was just wondering whether he could try to be smart and put his bishop on a better square. So,
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, in the current position, where does White put his bishop? He's kind of used... He's used this square, he's used this square, he's used this square, and this square.
yeah, my vibe was to put it on the d6 square.
Okay, on this square. Interesting. So in the current position, he could go there. What's the difference if Black waits?
Yeah, and the whole point is that the pawn doesn't come with time. When it
Doesn't hit you later. So, for example, you could go for it now. I think it would end up in the exact same position, unfortunately. But, yeah, it's all about whether White at some point can go in with the king, zigzag, and win the Black bishop by pushing this pawn. Just doesn't look possible, unfortunately.
Yeah, it looks a little bit dangerous. And 4 seconds, and yeah, I don't think he's going to go for it at all.
Yeah, it's just too much risk involved at the moment, and you can't take the risk with 10 seconds on your clock.
No,
He's probably spent the last 20 moves calculating that line as well, so...
Yeah, I think, and it looks like they're going to shake hands. Have they shaken hands now?
Yeah. And shaking his head as well, Levon Aronian, with the pieces in this game too. It ends with a draw. What's happening? Oh, that's the analysis board.
Oh, sorry, I was still playing through.